Welcome to the Indian Film Festival of Cincinnati in its second virtual edition. I am Rati Apana. I'm the Executive Director of the Indian Film Festival. This year, our festival carries 60 independent films made in 2020 and 2021 in the features, shorts, and documentary categories. Our films cover 15 languages, including English, and all of our films are subtitled in English. And this year we have close to 20 women directors. With us today is the director, Vinothraj PS, director of the beautiful film Pebbles or Kuzangal, made in 2021. It is his feature film debut and had its world premiere at the International Rotterdam Film Festival in Rotterdam. And with us also is Mr. Amudhavan Karupaya, who is the creative producer of this beautiful film. And both of them are joining us from India. The film was presented by Nayanthara, the famous actress, and Vignesh Shivan under the banner Rowdy Pictures. And it stars a very fine actor, Karthudayan and Chelapandi, both fine actors. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Vanakkam.
It's an honor to be part of the Indian Film Festival of Cincinnati, and our entire team is extremely elated to present the film to your audience.
Oh, thank you so much. This is today we are going to ask questions, and Mr. Amudhavan will translate what I say to Mr. Vinothraj. So this is a visceral film with a very spectacular opening. There's nature in every frame of the film, and you may translate to Mr. Vinothraj.
Vinod, நம்ம படத்துல நேச்சர்ங்கிறது எல்லா ஃப்ரேம்லயுமே இருக்கு. அது எதுக்காக கொண்டு வந்தீங்க, எப்படி கொண்டு வரணும்னு தோணுச்சு உங்களுக்கு?
அதான் அந்த நேச்சர் தான் என்ன சொல்றேன், இந்த கதைக்கு முக்கியமான ஒரு பங்கு வகிக்குது. அது ஒரு கேரக்டரா தான் நான் பாக்குறேன். ஏன்னா அதுக்கு ஒரு கிராஃப்ட் எழுதுன மாதிரி தான் இருக்கு நேச்சர். ஏன்னா அதோட வெயில அதோட தாக்கம் தான் வந்து இவனை இவ்வளவு தூரத்துக்கு வந்து அங்க இருக்க வெப்பநிலையை வச்சுதான் அந்த மக்களோட மனநிலையை நம்ம வந்து என்ன சொல்றது எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ண முடியும். ஸோ நேச்சர் எனக்கு வந்து அது ஒரு கேரக்டர் தான். அதை நான் செப்பரேட்டா அந்த இதுவும் கிடையாது. ஸோ நேச்சருக்காக தான் வெயிட் பண்ணோம். ஒவ்வொரு ஷாட் எடுக்கிறது நேச்சர் பர்மிஷன் கொடுத்தா நாங்கள் ஒரு ஷாட் எடுக்க முடியும். ஸோ அதுதான் எங்களுக்கு மேஜரா அதான் அது ஒரு முக்கியமான கேரக்டர் அது எங்களுக்கு.
Like Vinothraj believes that the behavioral characteristics of the individuals always is determined by the environment in which he lives in. And with regard to the people living in these terrains, their behavioral characteristics are very strongly influenced by the nature, especially the heat out there, that mugginess that he develops, the kind of the hot air that blows over there. So these factors actually contribute to their behavioral characteristics, and these people are extremely loving to one extent, and they'll be extremely filled with anger and so much of frustration in themselves. So since these characters, since the film is based on the lives of these people, he wanted to make sure that this factor is also put in place, and hence he had nature as a separate character itself, and that's the reason he could see each and every frame is filled with the nature. And every time when he does the shoot, he always waited for the permission from the nature to go ahead with the shoot. So that is how he shot the entire film. So that's the basic story behind it.
So nature was an actor in this film also. This question is for Vinothraj. Vinothraj, you had a very interesting journey making your first film. You started off working in a DVD shop in Chennai, and then you got to know people in the industry, which helped you then get a foot into the door and become the assistant theater director. Then you began to make your own films. But with this particular film, I want to know, what was the impetus? What was the burning reason for you to make this film in this location and about this topic?
Yeah. வினோத், உங்க ஜேர்னி ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்கான ஒரு ஜேர்னி. லைக் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டிவிடி ஷாப்ல ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு, அதுக்கப்புறம் அசிஸ்டன்ட் டைரக்டரா ஒர்க் பண்ணி, அதுக்கப்புறம் தியேட்டர்ல அசிஸ்டன்ட் டைரக்டரா ஒர்க் பண்ணி, தென் இந்த படம் வந்து பண்ணியிருக்கீங்க. இந்த படம் பண்றதுக்கான ஒரு முக்கியமான ஊந்துதல் என்ன? உங்களுக்கு ஒரு ஒரு விஷயம் வந்து இதை பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ஒரு கன்வின்சிங்கா ஒன்று தோணி இருக்கும்ல, அது எந்த விஷயம் உங்களுக்கு தோணுச்சு? அது எதுக்கு அந்த இது பண்ணி?
எல்லாருமே ஒரு ஃபர்ஸ்ட் படம் எடுக்கிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி அவங்கவுங்களுக்கு ஒரு ஒரு எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் கண்டிப்பா இருக்கும். ஒரு படத்துல ஒர்க் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க, ஷார்ட் ஃபிலிம்ஸ்ல ஒர்க் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க. அதே மாதிரி தான், அதே மாதிரி டிராமால கூடுதலா நான் டிராமால போய் ஒர்க் பண்ணேன். இப்படி ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு நான் ஒரு வேற ஒரு ஸ்கிரிப்ட் எழுதிட்டு நான் அப்ரோச் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கும்போது இந்த இந்த கதைக்கான ஊந்துதல் எங்க வந்துச்சுன்னா, நம்ம ஆல்ரெடி சொன்ன மாதிரி ஒரு ஃபேமிலியில வந்து ஒரு இன்சிடென்ட் நடந்துச்சு. ஸோ அந்த இன்சிடென்ட் தான் இந்த கதையை வந்து மொத்தமா எனக்கு எழுதுறதுக்கு எல்லாத்துக்குமே வந்து இதான் உங்களுக்கு ஆல்ரெடி தெரியும், நம்ம வீட்டுல நடந்த சம்பவம் தான். ஸோ நான் ஏதோ ஒரு கதையை சூஸ் பண்ணிட்டு அதுதான் நம்ம படமா எடுக்க போறோம் அப்படின்னு நினைச்சு டிராவல் போயிட்டே இருந்தேன். ஸோ இப்படி ஒரு சம்பவம் நடந்து இதுக்குள்ளதான் ஏதோ ஒரு பெயின் இருக்கு, இதைதான் நீ வெளியே சொல்லியே ஆகணும். என்னால் நேரடியா போய் எதுவுமே நான் கேட்டு எதுவுமே யார்ட்டையும் பதில் கேட்டு வாங்கிட முடியாது. ஸோ நம்மளுக்கு இருக்க ஆயுதம் சினிமா, அது மூலியமா நம்ம கேட்டு பார்ப்போம், அது மூலியமா பேசி பார்ப்போம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ஒரு பர்சனல் லைஃப்ல இருந்து எடுத்த ஒரு இன்சிடென்ட் தான். பட் அதை எடுத்து எழுதிட்டு இருக்க வரைக்கும் அது ஏதோ சுய புலம்பலா மாறிமோன்ற ஒரு பயம் இருந்துகிட்டே இருந்துச்சு. அதுக்கப்புறம் எழுதி முடிச்ச பிறகு அப்புறம் தான் யோசிச்சா, அது ஏதோ எங்க ஃபேமிலியில மட்டும் நடந்த இன்சிடென்ட் கிடையாது, அங்க மட்டும் நடக்கிற இன்சிடென்ட் கிடையாது. இது ஒவ்வொரு லேண்ட்ஸ்கேப்ல ஒவ்வொரு விதமா நடக்குது அப்படின்னு எனக்கு புரிஞ்சிச்சு. ஸோ அந்த கான்ஃபிடென்ட் வந்த பிறகுதான் இந்த கதையை நம்ம படமா எடுக்கலாம் முடிவுக்கு வந்தேன்.
As any aspiring filmmaker in India, like he started working as an assistant director. Initially, like he wanted to be a cinematographer because of the shooting that he has seen while he was a child. You know, like the cinematographers going up and down the crane actually had, it actually fascinated him so much that he wanted to go up and down in the crane. So that is the reason he wanted to become a cinematographer. But then, like when he moved to Chennai and when he was working as a sales boy in a DVD shop, he had acquaintances with assistant directors, and he started assisting them in their short films. For short films, you know, like one assistant will be working as an assistant for cinematographer as well as the director. So that is how he started his journey. But then during the story discussions and stuff, you know, like his contribution actually, made the directors with whom he worked to tell him that, you know, you have a lot of stories to be told. So they advised him to be a filmmaker. That is when he started considering being a filmmaker as a serious thing. So like though he worked in one movie in Tamil, he felt that he is kind of incomplete in learning. He had an acquaintance with a theatrical group, a modern postmodernistic theater group. So he went and worked there for about a year or so. And their team is called Manal Magudi, and it's headed by one of the very prominent directors. So like he went and worked there, and he credits this theater troupe as the place where he learned the nuances of filmmaking. That is the place where he learned about extracting performances from the actors and also extracting, like the staging and stuff. So that is how he got into this thing. The impetus for writing this script is, initially he wrote a different script based on his experience while working in a textile factory in Tirupur. But then during that time, an incident in his family actually provoked him to start writing this script. Once his sister was sent away by her husband, and she had to walk about 14 odd kilometers with a baby in her hand. So that incident actually caused a deep pain in him, and he was not in a position to question his brother-in-law or so. So he thought, the only way to question or, take revenge on the brother-in-law or such people is by taking a film. So that is the reason he started writing the script. But then he believed that just because it has happened in his real life doesn't mean that it should be put it on screen. Then he realized that so many people in these terrains have similar stories. Almost all women face such ordeals day in and out. So he got convinced that this story has to be told, and he started understanding the reason for which these people behave in such manner. and he understood about the women out there who actually hold the family together and who sacrifice a lot just for the sake of the kids. So he just got convinced that this story has to be told to the world, and he believed that this would apply universally because in some corner of the world such terrains do exist, and such people do exist, and such women do exist. So that is the reason he wrote this script, and he is glad that it has traveled all over the world right now.
Oh, that is beautiful. That is a beautiful explanation of why he started to make this film. Thank you for that. So, Mr. Amudhavan, we have a feminist amongst us, and I like that very much. The fact that he was brave enough to pick up on his sister's story and create a beautiful message that will really reverberate throughout the world. Like you said, in some corners, somewhere, some women will definitely relate to it, and some men will definitely relate to this sort of abuse that is going on. So I do thank Mr. Vinothraj for bringing light to such problems that women face. It's a universal problem. So you could translate that to him, and I'll ask you the next question.
I mean, இந்த கதை வந்து உலகத்துல ஏதோ ஒரு மூலையில இந்த மாதிரி நடக்கும் அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு விஷயம் இருக்குல்ல, அதை நீங்க அந்த கன்விக்ஷனோட தான் இந்த படம் பண்ணீங்க. அது வந்து அதுவும் இல்லாம உங்க தங்கச்சிக்கு நடந்த ஒரு விஷயத்த வந்து நீங்க ஒரு படமா பண்ணணும்னு நினைச்சது ஒரு பெரிய பிரேவான அட்டெம்ப்ட். ஸோ அதுக்காக அப்ரிஷியேட் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்றாங்க.
It is a very beautiful film. I want to just draw attention and tell the audience as well. The film begins. When it begins, you get the feeling that the situation is very bleak, and you feel the heat in the film, and you feel that scorching sun. And was it, and I think it was a metaphor for the real heat in the man, because he was so hot-headed. And so that was a very interesting way that Mr. Vinothraj created that in his film. It was a beautiful visual. You see this trip happening, and this trip has happened so many times because of the pebbles that this young boy collects. So I just wanted you to let him know that we see that metaphor, and wanted to know, why did he choose the pebbles? Where did that come from? Why did he choose for the boy to have pebbles?
Okay. தோணல நீங்க அந்த பயங்கர அந்த ஹாட் சன் இருக்குல்ல, அதை வந்து நீங்க அதை ஒரு மெட்டஃபரா யூஸ் பண்ணிருந்தீங்க படத்துல. அவன் கர்த்தரியான் கேரக்டர் வந்து ஒரு மாதிரி இருக்கிறது, அவன் கோபம், அவனோட வெறுப்பு எல்லாமே அந்த கேரக்டர் கொண்டு வந்தீங்க. அந்த சூரியனும் அதோட அந்த வெப்பமும் தான் அவனை வந்து அந்த கேரக்டர் வந்து அப்படி பண்ணுதுன்றது வந்து அவங்களுக்கு புரிஞ்சுக்க முடியுது. ஸோ அதுக்கு அப்ரிஷியேட் பண்றாங்க. அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த பையன் வந்து பெபிள்ஸ் வச்சிருக்கிறதுக்கான காரணம், அந்த டைட்டில் பெபிள்ஸ், அதுக்கான காரணம் என்ன அப்படிங்கிறது?
இல்லண்ணே, நம்ம கல்ச்சர்லயே ட்ரெடிஷ்னலா வந்து ஒரு டிராவல், அதாவது நம்ம ஜிப்சியா இருந்த காலகட்டத்துல இருந்து ஒரு லாங் டிராவல் போறவங்க, இல்ல இந்த ஊர்ல இருந்து இன்னொரு ஊருக்கு போறவங்களே வந்து நம்ம சவுத் சைடு வந்து குளோபலா இருக்கும். பட் இங்க என்னன்னா, அந்த கூழாங்கல்ல வாயில போட்டுக்குவாங்க. அத வாயில ஓரமா அப்படி ஒதுக்கிட்டு அப்படி நடந்து போனா அந்த உமிழ் நீர் சுரந்து தாகம் எடுக்காது. ஸோ அந்த ரீசன் தான் அவன் அந்த கூழாங்கல் நம்ம கையில கொடுத்ததுக்கான மெயின் ரீசனு. அப்புறம் இந்த என்ன சொல்றது, இந்த படத்துல இந்த கதை வந்து இன்னைக்கு நடந்த கதை கிடையாது, இதுக்கு முன்னாடி நடந்திருக்கும், இதுக்கு அப்புறம் நடக்கும்ன்றத கடைசி அந்த ஷார்ட்ல தான் நம்ம வந்து ஒரு மெட்டஃபரா யூஸ் பண்ணி அங்க ரிலீஸ் பண்றோம். அந்த ரிசல்ட்டே நம்ம அங்கதான் கடைசியா சொல்றோம். ஸோ இதெல்லாம் வச்சு பார்க்கும்போது படம் கம்ப்ளீட் ஆனி ஷூட்லாம் முடிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் இப்படி ஒரு டைட்டில் வச்சா நல்லா இருக்குன்ற தாட்ஸே வந்துச்சு. ஸோ டைட்டில் இதை பேஸ் பண்ணி வைக்கல, ஆனா இந்த படம் எடுத்து முடிச்சோம்னா இதோட ஆப்டான டைட்டில் எதுவும் இருக்காது அப்படின்றது. மோஸ்ட்லி அந்த கூழாங்கல் கையில அவன் எடுத்ததுக்கான ரீசன் வந்து அந்த உமிழ்நீர் வந்து அந்த டிராவல்ல வந்து அவன் தாக எடுக்காம நடக்கிறதுக்காக தான் அப்படின்றதுதான் அதோட ரீசன்.
Pebbles, since ages, people who go on a journey, they used to go by walk, and to avoid the thirst, they always have these pebbles in their mouth. When they have the pebbles in their mouth, they start salivating and they don't feel the thirst at all. So that's been happening for ages for travelers. Not just, especially in South India, you can always see people traveling from one place to another by walk. They always have pebbles in their mouth, and that's one reason for which he had that boy character to have the pebbles in his mouth, and that's quite predominant in South India, especially in villages. So that is one reason, and also in the end shot, you see a cluster of pebbles in a shelf,
Yes.
which means that as you know, this is just a one-off day in their life. It could have happened prior to this day. He could have gone on his own, or he could have gone with his mother. And this incident can repeat after a week or so. We never know that. But it's just a day in their life. Karthadayan and Chelapandi, the father and the son character. So that is one reason for which the pebbles place. And also, on the other hand, for kids, every problem around them is more like a pebble. Even when there are problems which are as huge as mountains or hills as we see it in these terrains, for these kids, all these issues and problems are more like pebbles, and they just, and that's another reason for which the pebbles is increased.
I thought it was a very powerful statement, and yes, and that came across very clearly when we saw the stash of pebbles. So another thing that Mr. Vinothraj did in the film was, on the one hand, you had this man who was very egoistical, and he, was having, wanted his wife to come back and was mistreating her and all of that. And at the same time, he depicted what an enigma Indian society is, because you see the teacher and the husband, and the teacher, who's a lady who's now riding the motorbike, and, sort of the egalitarian role in that marriage. Was this I'm sure this was on purpose, but I just want to know what he was thinking.
Well, that was excellent that you pointed it out. இந்த மேல் ஈகோன்றது வந்து இந்த படத்துல காமிச்சிருக்கீங்க. அதுவும் இல்லாம நீங்க அந்த ஹஸ்பண்ட் அண்ட் ஒய்ஃப், அந்த கல்யாண ஹஸ்பண்ட் ஒய்ஃப் பைக்ல போறாங்களே, அவங்க இதுக்குள்ளார ஒரு மேல் ஈகோ இருக்கிறத சொல்லியிருப்பீங்க, அந்த வண்டியில போறது அதுன்ட்டு. அது பர்பஸா வச்சிருக்கீங்கன்னு தெரியுது, பட் அது எப்படி அணுகுறீங்க, அது எப்படி பாக்குறீங்கன்றது.
அது வந்து நான் இப்ப அந்த அவங்க அம்மா எந்த நோக்கத்துக்காக இவ்வளவு பிரச்சனையை தாண்டி அவனை அங்க விட்டுட்டு வந்திருப்பானா, நீ வந்து கொஞ்சம் படிச்சு உங்க அப்பா மாதிரி இல்லாம நீ வந்துரு, உனக்கு படிப்பு ரொம்ப இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் சொல்லி விட்டுட்டு வந்திருப்பா. சோ இப்ப அந்த நம்ம கதை எழுதும் போதுனா வேற யார் வந்து கூட்டிட்டு போனாலும் ஆப்டா இருக்கும். நாங்க வேற ஏதோ கேரக்டர் நாங்க பிச் பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கோம், எங்களுக்கு வேற எந்த கேரக்டருமே எங்களுக்கு ஆப்டாவே இல்ல. சோ அப்போ அவளோட டீச்சர் கேரக்டர், ஒரு எஜுகேஷன் வந்து அவனை கூட்டு போறதா நான் பாக்குறேன். அப்படிதான் அந்த லேயர்ஸ் நான் பாக்குறேன். ஒரு எஜுகேட்டடா அவர் டீச்சர் வந்து அவனை கூட்டிட்டு போறா அப்படின்றது ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல அதுல இருக்க தாட்டு. இன்னொன்னு, அவளுக்கு ஏன் லீவ் எடுத்தா அப்படின்னு அவன் சொல்லணும்னா, அவளுக்கு ஒரு 3-4 days முன்னாடி தான் கல்யாணம் முடிஞ்சிருக்கு. சோ அவளை யாரோ இன்வைட் பண்ணிருக்காங்க. அப்ப அவன் வந்து அந்த டீச்சர் வந்து அந்த அவன் வீட்டுல வண்டி எடுக்கும் போது அவன் தான் எடுத்திருப்பான். இப்படி யாருமே இல்லாத இடத்துல வரும்போது நான் வண்டியை கூட ஓட்டுறேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி டீச்சர் வாங்கி ஓட்டிட்டு இருக்கும்போது அவங்களுக்குள்ள சிலிமஸம், அந்த ஊர் வரக்கு முன்னாடி வண்டி என்கிட்ட கொடுத்துரு, அந்த ரேஞ்சில தான் அவன்கிட்ட வந்து பேசிட்டு இருப்பான். சோ இப்ப படிச்சவங்களா இருக்கும்போது அவன் வந்து கொஞ்சம் இந்த ஸ்பேஸ்லயாவது அவன் வண்டி கொடுக்கறது, இந்த மாதிரி மல்டி நரேஷன் இருக்குண்ணா. ஒரே நிமிஷம் லைட் ஆஃப் ஆயிடுச்சு, இதான் மேட்டர். நீங்க சொல்லுங்க, நான் லைட் இருக்கிறத போய் நிக்கிறேன்.
As he told, so that the male ego is quite common, that's predominant everywhere, and especially in these villages, it's quite common. And the reason for which he had that couple, the lady and the husband traveling in the two-wheeler who picks up the boy, she's a teacher basically, and the mother character left the little boy in their village because she believed that at least he will go to school and get educated and he won't be like his father. That is the thought that the mother had, and that is the reason she had left him in their village, and she had gone to her mother's place. And when this guy was walking to his village back, while writing, Vinothraj thought that he needs someone to take him, take him along. So he was wondering, it's only education which could, properly guide him, and that is the layer that he had behind that, character of the teacher out there, and the kind of the love or the naughty stuff that happens between the husband and wife of the teachers, uh, which is which is quite known because she has taken a holiday. I mean, you can't simply say that why is she on traveling around why is she there in that particular place. So
Yeah.
he found the reason while writing that she is just married and she's just traveling with her husband to a nearby village. So that is the reason he got it while
Yeah.
writing. But then this guy would have taken the bike when he started from his village, and in the space where nobody is around, he let his wife, educated wife, to drive the bike on her own. But then he again wants his wife to leave the bike back to him so that other people know that he's giving the bike to his wife and he's sitting behind. So that male ego actually exists, but then at least there is a space that that husband has given to his educated wife to be herself and give the respect that she deserves in that space at least. So that is the kind of people they are, and then he believes that it would slowly change, and at least this space has been created now, and that space would get even more wider as the days go by, is what Vinothraj believed, and that is the reason he had
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I hope there will be an egalitarian role. You had two amazing debut actors, and the main actor, I mean, he had this amazing stride. And so I'm curious about the audition process, since so much of this film was about walking and you were seeing him from the back. I was really taken up by that. And I kind of wondered about the story behind the story. How did you go about the audition? And were you actually looking for someone who walked so well? Or did
I'll
it just
probably
happen fast?
answer to this directly before Vinothraj stays, because he's being modest at times. Regarding the audition, this actor Karuthadayan, he had an acquaintance with this actor Karuthadayan while he was working in the theatre group. So he has seen his performances, and he adored the kind of rage with which he performs on stage. So he loved him so much that while writing the script itself, the father character got convinced that he has to play the role. And also his skin tone was so, perfect for the landscape, for the people who live out there. So he was convinced that Karuthadayan has to play the father character. But then when he went and approached him, he was very happy to perform only with the theatre, and he didn't want to perform in the films. But then he gave the script to him, and finally he said, I'll do it. And from then on, he just came on board.
But his walk,
since it is about
I'm sorry. His walk was so striking. So tell me about that. Yeah.
Since it is about a journey, Vinothraj actually, while writing the script, he spent about a year and a half researching on the people out there. He mingled with a lot of people out there, and he spoke with them and spent a lot of time with them. During that time period only, he understood so many things about the behavioral characteristics being influenced by the nature around them, and also the kind of drought that exists out there made sure that there is no agriculture at all nowadays, and they were heavily dependent on other manual labors. So men mostly work as manual laborers in markets, especially they do the loading and unloading jobs. So he started going with them and just tried to find out what they do and how they do. And he also started working with them in loading and unloading. And he understood that when people start working on this loading and unloading stuff, their walk actually changes. Since he knew that the journey is about so much of walking in those terrains, he thought, he has to have a unique walk, which is very predominant to these people who are involved in loading and unloading. So Vinothraj initially practiced that walk for a long time, and then when Karuthadayan came in place, he made sure that he told him about that. And Karuthadayan is such a dedicated actor that he started working in loading and unloading for about a couple of weeks there, and he developed that style of walking. Like once you start loading the goods on your back kind of like lifts up a bit, and the walk actually changes. So Karuthadayan is so dedicated that he worked like that, and then he started doing that walk, and that is how the walk came into picture. So so this is the story behind the walk and the kind of effort that the team has put in, Vinothraj and Karuthadayan. And with regard to the kids thing, he had auditioned about 70 odd kids, but then he couldn't zero in on the right kid. He wasn't convinced with the kid character. So he tried to zero in on by identifying dysfunctional families and kids from dysfunctional families. So when he looked out for such kids and families, he found this guy, Challapandi, whose life was much more miserable than what is depicted on screen. So this little boy was able to understand the nuances of the script. Basically, whatever the scene was explained to him, he was able to understand it easily, and he emoted it flawlessly. Like he was very easy to work with, and he worked on. He was able to easily understand, and he delivered it with ease. So this is the thing which happened, and audition and rehearsals happened a lot because people have never appeared in front of the camera. For every actor in the film, this is the first time on screen, and they did a lot of rehearsal. They spent a lot of time making them feel comfortable working in front of the camera, and then the shoot actually happened. So this is how the entire process was.
So what's next for the little boy?
What do you mean? Like you mean to say?
Is there another film for him, or how is the situation?
Yeah. So we actually showed the film to quite a few filmmakers here, and who immediately made him. He just completed a week shoot in one of the films recently, just the last week actually. So like he's doing good, but at the same time, Vinothraj wanted him to focus on his education, because that is the reason for which he made the film, and he's supporting his education too. So that is what he's been doing all the time.
Oh, that is magnificent, Mr. Vinothraj. Thank you so much. So you're uplifting lives at the same time that you're making these beautiful films. We enjoyed this film very much. We enjoyed it. Was very different from a lot of films. And we could identify with that landscape, with the heat that the man was feeling, and it was a very touching film as well. So thank you so much, Mr. Vinothraj, for making that film. What is next for you? Do you have another film coming up that we should watch out for? I'm just asking.
அதாவது ஸ்கிரிப்ட் ரைட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். ஸோ நெக்ஸ்ட் இயர் மார்ச்ல ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாம்னு ஐடியா இருக்கு. ஸோ அதுவும் கூழாங்கல் மாதிரி கண்டிப்பா அடுத்த ட்ரை பண்ணலாம். அடுத்த ஃபெஸ்டிவல்ஸ்க்கு நான் ஏன்னா அந்த கோவிட் டயத்துல வந்து எங்களால நிறைய ஃபெஸ்டிவல்ல நேரடியா கலந்துக்க முடியல. ஸோ அடுத்த படத்தை நல்லா எடுத்து அந்த டைம்ல கோவிட் சுச்சுவேஷன்லாம் சால்வ் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா அப்படியே ஃபெஸ்டிவல்ஸ்லாம் ரவுண்ட் அடிக்கலாம்னு ஐடியா இருக்கு. ஸோ நெக்ஸ்ட் ஃபிலிம் கண்டிப்பா டெஃபினட்டா நல்லாவே பண்ணலாம்.
He's working on a script right now, and he's planning to go to the shoot in the month of March 2022. So because of COVID, because of the pandemic, like we couldn't travel to any festivals much. We just traveled to Romania. That's the only festival where we have attended it in person and watched the film with the audience and interacted with them personally. So he's hoping that at least for the second film, he would be able to travel to each festival and interact with the audience a lot more. So that is what he's hoping for, and hopefully that should also come out well, and he believes in it. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And which festival did you go in person?
And we hope he would travel to Cincinnati for next year at least.
Yes, we would love to have all of you here next year. And this was very nice. We really enjoyed it very much. Wish you all the luck with this film. It's a gem of a
Thank
film.
you so
And
much.
to our audience, I just want to say, please see this film. Please, check out this film wherever it is, in whichever part of the world. It plays at our festival till the 21st. So thank you, Mr. Amudhavan, for being here. And thank you, Mr. Vinothraj. Thank you very much.
And it's a pleasure for us. Thank you so much once again for this opportunity to present our film at your festival. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Vinothraj.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, ma'am. Bye.